Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show. If you're joining us for the second, third, or 100th time, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. It's your host, Stephen Schmidt, and this is the Real Estate Pros Podcast. And as always, I got a special treat for you guys. I got Guy Barretta in the house. Guy has one of the more impressive rap sheets that I've seen, and has some pretty incredible stories to tell. Currently, he is the founder of a fractional COO company, which he is running in the real estate sector. He has actually been working in the real estate business for over 25 years, and crazy enough, he actually at one point held the record for the biggest sale in Brooklyn. At least the property itself is over $150 million. And that's pretty incredible to have. So we're honored to have Guy here in the studio today. And we're going to get rocking and rolling on a conversation about how really any agent, if you're in the real estate business or investor, should have their SOPs put in place. And if you're an agent specifically, you should be investing in real estate and how to execute upon that. So we're going to get rocking and rolling. But before we do, remember at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their businesses so they can build the businesses they've always wanted in order to live the lives they've always dreamed of. With that being said, Guy, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Stephen. Great to be here, and looking forward to a great conversation this morning.
Absolutely. So I know we had a chance to chat a little bit here, but can you give our listeners a little bit of a background on yourself and what got you into the real estate business? I know you had a little bit of a pivot at one point there in the beginning, and then what got you to 25 years post that to where you're now solely hunkered down and focused on helping people unscrew their processes, is what I like to say about COOs.
Yeah, I like that. Can I steal that?
Absolutely.
All right,
that's the PG version of how I would normally say it, but
so yeah, I was working for a startup company in New York City, and I was getting my MBA, and they were helping me with the MBA, and I thought with the MBA I'd be moving on to another role within the organization, and that role never materialized. So I actually did a pivot and went into commercial real estate, investment sales in New York City, working for a great firm at the time, and really enjoyed working in the investment sales space and working with owners of commercial real estate. And from there, my career just started transitioning. I went from an investment sales agent to working for several prop tech firms to aligning myself with a company called, at the time, Realogy, which is now Anywhere Real Estate, that owns several residential and commercial real estate brands from a franchising perspective, and ran the growth of their brands, throughout 14 states. Took over an opportunity to actually help out and run a residential and commercial real estate brokerage and help that company grow. And then from there, I pivoted in 2023 again to starting my own business, which was, a fractional COO role in creating Barretta Consulting to work in the real estate space, whether it be with real estate brokerages or real estate property management firms or investors, to help them scale and grow their businesses by making sure that they're operationally fit. I always say there's two aspects of growth. There's the internal growth and making sure that everything's aligned and everything looks great on paper and everything's executing to the best of its ability. And then there's the external growth. What can I do going forward to help build my business, whether it's acquiring more property, taking on more headcount to manage what I have and what I've built. And those are all difficult questions that we look at every single day.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
But I think, to your point, there's also an aspect of this whole business that we never talk about, and that's, there's 2 million real estate agents in the United States. How many of them are actually investing in real estate, and how many real estate brokerages are taking the time to help their agents invest in real estate and teach them how to invest in real estate? And that's where I think Investor Fuel really can come into play.
Yeah, 100%, man. So let me ask you this: as far as your business goes now, somebody is rocking and rolling, they're decent sized brokerage, let's say, and they're thinking to themselves, I really gotta button some things up here within our business. Like, what is the type of client that actually reaches out to you? What's that pain that they're feeling that they need to get solved within their business, and then you're the perfect fit to come in and solve it? Or do you have more of a consultancy piece? Because I know what you are really interested in, obviously helping people to, create generational wealth. I'm sure that comes up at some point in the conversation, but to your point also, it's not something that brokers are really thinking about.
Correct. It's not something that's top of mind, because sometimes the broker owner hasn't even really invested in real estate. Maybe they have their one home, and maybe they have a second home, but they never really invested. So they don't even know how to have that conversation. When I work with a brokerage, when a brokerage reaches out, it's basically when they realize that no one has their back. It's a very fragmented industry, so they can't go across the street and talk to another broker owner and say, hey, how are you doing this? So if they don't feel that they have that backing and that partner, that's when they're reaching out to me. Or they realize that their back end systems are a mess and nothing's talking to each other, and they just can't get out of the day-to-day to achieve their strategic vision. We're all amazing in that we all have a vision of where we want to be, and people in the real estate space are the same way. And it's just, how do I get to that next level? And it may make sense to bring somebody in to help facilitate that and get that individual or that brokerage to the next level. And then I look at it from, what can you create from an ancillary service perspective sometimes, right? Obviously there's mortgage and title, but the great one is that we don't talk about enough is property management and the investment on your own properties and bringing potential clients into your business that way. And then also providing an opportunity for your agents to invest in some of these aspects or some of these properties that you may have purchased. So it really comes full circle. That's what's amazing about real estate is there's so many different nuances to it. And there's opportunities for individuals to make money in so many different ways.
So first steps of your process, you come into a business, what does that look like so you drive immediate impact and immediate value?
First thing is SWOT analysis. I mean, that, I have to look at what their strengths are, their weaknesses, their opportunities and threats. Second thing is the P&L. Where is the spend going? and why is the spend going where it's going. If you're spending money to advertise in a magazine just because you like the owner of that magazine, that's probably not the best use of your money. And then the third component is looking at how their back end systems are talking to each other, if they're talking to each other at all, or if they even have back end systems. And then starting that process to get to a point where we can implement some systems that are probably going to cost money up front, but will save you time and money in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so what do you think is really unique about your process? Obviously, there's other fractional COOs out there, but specifically for the real estate sector, what do you think is the unique driving point that you kind of bring to the table that others don't really bring to the table?
So on the brokerage side, I've lived it. Having been a COO of a brokerage, I've lived it every single day. And
Sure.
I woke up every day saying, what can I do to bring value to the agents? And I think from my perspective, when a broker owner wakes up every day thinking that, that's something that we can really work towards.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Additionally, I have a background in M&A. I have a background in growth, so I can really facilitate that aspect for those brokerages that are looking for those opportunities, whether it's growth in the market that they're currently in just to get more market share, or whether it's growth to move and pivot out to other markets that they want to focus on. And same with property management. When I'm working with a brokerage that has a property management arm right now, our goal is growth, right? We have X amount of units now. We want to get to this amount of units. And, I'm pinging and I'm reaching out to other property management firms, throughout the state to see where their heads are at from, where are they in their business life is usually what I say. Does it make sense to maybe walk away and see what your business value is?
Sure. What's something you believed about the real estate space when you started that you no longer believe?
That everybody's in it for the right reasons.
What
How
does that
bad is
mean to
that?
you? That's good.
Well, I mean, there's
I like that.
there's a lot of shadiness that goes on in the industry, and we don't really talk about it enough. But um, you know, you really have to make sure that you're aligning yourself with the right people and good people, um, and that you're a good person.
Can you
Whether you're
explain a little more into that without going into your trauma story of whatever situation you ran into or I'm sure you've dealt with?
I mean,
Some pretty
I've had people that I've had like listing agreements with that, on the commercial real estate side, and, I go away for a week and they sold the property, and I don't, I had a guy, an attorney at a closing, money that I needed for my wedding, mind you, basically say that I was overpaid and that I shouldn't get paid any money. And, and, and the attorney felt that he deserved all the money, just like little nuances like that. Like you know, at the end of the day, it's the industry. We all work together to to achieve the goals for our clients or to achieve our goals personally. And sometimes you just have people that see things differently in this industry, and they're just people that you just gotta, keep at a distance.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that note, how do you decide which opportunities are worth pursuing?
That's a great question. And when I'm going through the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and doing a value build, initial call with individuals, I want to, if they're engaged and they want to have a conversation, that's probably somebody that I want to work with. If they're holding back just on that initial conversation, anything that I ask for going forward, they're not. I just know for a fact they're not going to give me what I need to help them be as successful as possible.
Yeah, totally. So what's changed in your approach over the years? If you gain knowledge and become a seasoned veteran of the industry, like how has your approach evolved?
I think I've become more empathetic, and
Mm,
I try to see all sides, right? And try to understand where somebody else is coming from. Um, it's not always about me, 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 me. It's about, where are you coming from? What are your thoughts there? And try to bring the meeting of the minds together. Empathy goes a long way. And sometimes when, you know, an experience of a real estate agent, if you have two clients that are butting heads per se, you have to see both sides, kind of evaluate the situation, maybe take 24 hours, 48 hours, couple hours, and then come back to the situation and say, okay, how am I going to handle this?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
So there's some aspects of empathy that really plays out in the industry. And I would say even for individuals that are investing in real estate, so I think it's important to always know why the other side might be selling. It could be very traumatic. There could have been a traumatic issue that happened in the family and they just can't manage their portfolio of properties, or there are 3 or 4 properties, and they're looking for the right individual to kind of, I want to say carry on their name, but take care of the properties the way they took care of the properties. So you got to bring a little level of empathy, I think, into everything that you do.
Was there a specific moment or experience you had where that just was like an immediate shift for you, or how did you come to that conclusion?
You know, uh, in a previous role, I worked for somebody that wouldn't really look at and listen to everything and would just react. And you really have to listen and react, because when you just react, you're going off of emotion more so than anything else. So I think that was a key. Another point that I would say that's interesting is when I was in investment sales, commercial real estate, we sold a portfolio of buildings in New York and Brooklyn, and everybody says commercial real estate is never emotional, right? Residential real estate's emotional. Commercial real estate is all about the money. Well, we had 2 families together that had, their grandfathers bought these properties post World War II, and they had one uncle that was managing them. And I think the management rate at the time, property management rate was like 4 or 5%. And this guy was charging 10%. And they found out when we had a meeting with everybody in a room, in a conference room, and they lost their mind because they just did the calculations of how much money they lost over the years because their uncle, who they trusted, was taking money out of money out of the properties. And that got very emotional. And I always remember that. Like, that's just, you know, a case study of, you have to know where your money's going, right? If you have properties that you own and you have a property management firm, what is that property management firm doing for you to have your best interests?
Mm. Yeah, that's really good. Really, really good. Now, mm, with your approach to what you do, I know I asked about like um your process, but like with your approach over the years and like injecting that empathy, et cetera, what are some things that have evolved with your actual approach over the years?
I really try to get to the root of the problem, and I really try to build down into actionable items, right? Like, we're going to go from here to here to here. Where do we want to be? And my goal is to get buy-in not only from, the owner, but the rest of the organization, right? I'm coming in as your business partner. I'm coming in as your fractional COO. If we have a vision of where we want to go, we have to have buy-in across the board. And then I get that opportunity to work with the individuals within the firm to get to that point. So I think that's a little bit different than where I was, because
Yeah.
sometimes you're just trying to stay in the background, but I think it's important to be forward facing for everybody within the organization.
Right. So, like, what are you seeing in the market right now that others might be missing?
I think the market's active. I mean, from an investment perspective, the market is active. There's a lot of people searching and seeking for deals. It's just that how many of them are just seeking out that perfect deal? And we all know most deals aren't perfect, right? They all
Right.
have hair on them a little bit. But I think from that perspective, we're seeing, people are looking and want to do deals. On the residential side, we still have a shortage of inventory. I'm hearing some cracks, I would say, in Florida. It sounds like there's more property becoming available in Florida in certain areas and staying on the market a little bit longer. But overall, I mean, we're still on track to only do about 4 million sales on the residential side, which would still be the lowest number of sales in a year in 30 some odd years.
Wow.
So we're still in a really weird place. And
Yeah.
obviously it's mortgage, but I think, Stephen, I think this is the important part for people that are looking to get investing, right? Which you guys are always looking to work with individuals looking to get into real estate investing. I just saw a stat, like there are so many people in the United States that are sitting on equity in their homes, more so than at any time in the history of this country. And if they were able to tap into that equity to buy a second home, buy a duplex, buy a 3-family, buy a 4-family, and that's your first entree into real estate investing. And no one's having that conversation. Agents aren't having that conversation. Broker
Right.
owners aren't having that conversation. Um, the National Association of Realtors isn't having that conversation. But all this equity is tied up and people are just sitting on it. And to me, that's, and they don't have any intention of ever really selling, because they don't want to sell and tap into their equity and necessarily go into a 7% or 6% mortgage. So they're just sitting on this and not doing anything with it, which I find fascinating.
Mm. Yeah, I'm with you there. What's a mistake that cost you time or money, and what'd you learn from it?
What's a mistake that cost me time or money? So um, when I first started my consulting business, right around the same time, a potential opportunity presented itself. And I stopped working on my business to pursue this opportunity because I thought it was going to be potentially a long-term play. And I should have been doing both at the same time. And I probably lost 3 or 4 months in really developing and building my fractional business. I look
Mm.
back at that and say I probably wakes me up every morning.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you had to go
Yeah.
back to the beginning of when you got started in the space, and let's just say it was 25 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Um, and also, of course, factor in what you're doing now. But if you had to go back and restart 25 years ago, but you could take all of the knowledge and experience that you've gained over the last 25 years, what would you do different and what would you do the same?
So when I left the company that I was working for in 2003, I loved that company. Loved it. Right. And, but I also made a lot of money and I probably would have taken that money and invested in real estate
Mm,
back in 2003 when people weren't even investing in Brooklyn, New York. And
sure.
that's mind boggling to many people right now, but people did not always invest in Brooklyn, New York. People did not
Mm,
always invest in Queens, New York. People did not invest in Bronx. So if I could go back in time, I would have taken money and put it towards property in those locations.
why, if you don't mind me asking?
Because it would have provided me with more equity, opportunities to take cash out of those properties to purchase more properties. And those properties would have a 10 to 15x value right now. And,
Yeah.
$300,000 property then is probably worth 3 or 4 million, maybe 5 million today.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think about that. I think about that all the time.
Yeah, I actually spoke to a gentleman recently who was in the tech sector, had a career in tech, and he, because of his background, was offered to buy Bitcoin back when, I can't remember the exact number he said, but back when it was like, uh, if I recall, it was like 87 cents. And he was offered to buy 500 Bitcoin or some obscene number of them.
Right, right.
And the total investment would have been like $80. And had he basically was like, no, this is a scam. It's like,
Yeah,
there's no way, it's, whatever. And so $80, he passes on the investment, and that investment today would have been worth over 40 million
yeah,
with current averages, right? Just absolutely nuts. Um, but it's like everything, right? It's even like
yeah.
Buffett, man. Buffett, yeah, I think is a perfect example of it's just, you hear those stories and there's definitely people that hit it. I know another guy who did invest very well in crypto and he just cashed out $100 million, so it's like,
Right.
there are those people that do hit it, but it's that slow, consistent growth over time, compounded, that usually is what creates crazy, crazy wealth, right? So I guess, like the Chinese proverb would say, Guy, is, best time to have planted a tree or buy some property in Brooklyn was 20 years ago. But hey, the second best time is today, right?
Yeah, there's truth to that. Does it cost you a little bit more money? Of course, but
For
there's
sure.
there's truth. Um I don't think it's any secret in the world that, the best investment is in real estate. And uh we're seeing unprecedented times in terms of home values going up, and that's great. And uh people are building wealth through their primary spend, which is their house, which is amazing. But there's the opportunity to take some of that and now um, pivot and start acquiring properties on your own,
Yeah, you
other
bet.
properties.
Sure. So, one of the questions the question that I had asked was, what would you do different and what would you do the same? What's the portion of the what would you do the same piece of that?
Uh, there's a lot. I think I'm 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 okay with where my career trajectory has gone.
Mm,
I would say one thing I would continue to do the same is get my MBA. I think that helped me in tremendously in understanding numbers and nuances and math. When I was growing up, math never made sense to me. I was not a math guy. And the
mm,
reason why math didn't make sense to me is because when I was growing up, I was sick a lot and I missed a lot of school. And you could always catch up in history. You could always catch up in English. Math is difficult. If you didn't catch the concepts, it's hard to catch up. And math never made sense to me till I went to grad school and I saw the use of financial math and
mm.
math to understand finance of businesses and financial health of businesses and investing. And that just opened me up. So for me, that, you know, getting that education was so important to me. And the other thing I would do the same is continue my path in real estate. I enjoy real estate, and it's we discussed it earlier. It's a nuanced, fragmented world, but there's so much to it, and so much. It's so engaging. There's so much um, that you can learn and be a part of in this space.
All right. Yeah, to your point there, it's funny you say that because I was the same exact way with math. But what I would tell people is my favorite type of math was calculating my bank account and what was going to happen when I spent X or saved X. So,
I mean,
to
that's
your
the key,
point,
right? Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and it's amazing because my oldest son is going into high school next year, and they actually start teaching financial health and financial wellness to the incoming freshmen. And I
That's
think that's
awesome.
so important because we didn't get that, right, Stephen? Like when we
I don't
graduated,
know.
I didn't have any financial health classes. And I think
The only
that's,
financial class I took was when it was identifying what dollars and coins were.
yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I
This is a penny. This is a nickel. This
mean?
is a dime.
Kindergarten, man, like
That's great.
go ahead, continue with what you're saying about the financial literacy piece and
No,
what
so
they're doing.
I think that's important, and anything that you can get your hands on to learn more about financial literacy and reading books, I think is extremely important. I really try to spend an hour every morning like learning.
Mm,
Um, I'm probably addicted to information. I'm probably an information junkie, but I think it's important to, always have your mind ready to go and learning nuances. And
yeah,
additionally, any aspect of real estate is a people business, and you don't know who you're going to meet, and a conversation may pop up on something you just read, and are you going to be the expert on it? No, but you can lead to that conversation, and by having that conversation could lead to the opportunity in whatever field of real estate you're in.
you bet. Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said there. I tell my kids all the time, well, at least the one that can read as of right now, who's old enough to read. And I tell them, I say, look, man, the only difference between someone who can't read and someone who won't read is nothing. So, like, at the end of the day, dude, this is what separates you from the rest of the pack. And he's also had some challenges like getting up to speed. He's not diagnosed, but he might have some dyslexia going on because it's like we like listen and we're like you're switching some letters around in there,
Right. Right.
And so it's like it might be more difficult. Whereas like I was just like a natural reader, so
Yeah.
it's like kind of figuring out like this is a different deal, but still stressing that importance and trying to get him interested in it because that's been a pivotal thing for me too. It's just continuing my own education. I wouldn't say that I haven't, in all truthfulness, I haven't had a formal education post high school, but with the amount of knowledge and information and the things that I've self-studied, I could piece together quite a bit, I would imagine, for some different higher educational things. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly. And
and
just with your child, I would say stay on top of the school. My son
yeah,
was a little bit the same
100%.
way, right? Not
Right.
necessarily, he's just a little behind, right? And
Yeah.
now he's my youngest son is my most avid reader. My oldest doesn't really read, but my youngest, who
Nice.
had a little bit of a learning curve, um, I came into the room the other night and he was reading. I'm like, that was so amazing. That just,
Yeah.
as a dad, that made me very proud. He was in his bed, he was reading. I'm like, that's awesome.
You bet.
So
And isn't it so interesting how our world has evolved? This is something I think about all the time, Guy. I think to myself, not even 300 years ago, literally not even 300 years ago, 200 years ago, still a long time in the grand scheme of history, not really.
right,
But 200 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was sitting around reading, and his dad was throwing him off of a book like we would throw a kid off of video games nowadays. And it's like, it's very interesting how that was the
it's
thing, and
pretty
now we
crazy,
can't,
right?
and
Like,
now we
yeah,
can't get kids to pick up books. You know what I mean? So it's an
right. And
interesting shift.
yeah, you know, that's that's pretty deep, honestly, right?
I
And I
know.
think, and um, and now we don't, we just want them to read. If they read fantasy, fiction, nonfiction, just train your brain to read, to understand what
Right.
um, it's
Because it doesn't
pretty
always
amazing,
have to be self-help books and personal development and whatever. Like,
right?
it's still an engagement that you're doing with something. And I think this is another term. We're of course over time already, way over.
Of
But
course,
I told my mom this recently. Actually, I was talking to her, and I just told her, I said, Mom, we're moving into a phase of our world where essentially what's being created is we're just being encouraged to live a completely synthetic version of reality. We don't really get out in nature anymore. Instead of reading books, we read on our Kindles. And oh, by the way, books are from trees. Trees are, what make paper, and they're also in the earth, right? Which there's a lot that goes into, bare feet on the ground,
right,
grounding,
right.
things along those lines, connecting with nature. And I told my mom we're just in a place where we're slowly growing into a world where it's a synthetic reality completely removed from nature, right? You read a book, this is crazy, they did a study. You read a book, Guy, compared to a Kindle, you actually retain 7 times more information based on studies that they've done.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and that's fun. Yeah, that's funny because I never got into the Kindle. I still
Yeah, me neither. I can't do it.
listen.
I got
I grew up in the
I got
'80s,
physical
right?
books.
Like, yeah, I have to
Yeah.
have that. I have to have that book. I have to, I when I finish that book and you have it there, it's like, you feel accomplished, right? You just finished another
Right.
book. That's number one. Number two, like back in the day, I loved albums, CDs, and cassettes because it wasn't just about the music. It was also about reading the liner notes. It was about seeing the
Mm,
artwork.
yeah.
And kids just don't have that anymore. They don't know what that is. And
Right.
it's really surprising. And it's, to your point, we can't just go outside and walk and just enjoy. We did it, what's weird is we did it for a little bit during COVID, right? When everything was shut
Right.
down and you'd get the family together and walk around at like 4 o'clock and,
Yeah.
and it was more wildlife than we've ever seen before because nobody was on the roads. But,
Right.
we're now separated from that again that quickly. 2 years, 3 years gone.
Yeah.
And now we're separated and we're all in this rat race again.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting
We got
game.
really deep. We got really deep on this.
Yeah, we did. Well, shoot, man, tell these fine folks where they can connect with you for more. And if they want to see what you're working on, learn more about you, where should they go for that, Guy?
My best is LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Guy Barretta, GUYBARRETTA. Connect with me. Let's have chats. Let's have discussions. I'd love to hear what other people are doing in the world and, um, and engaging with others. That's the key.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here, my friend. It was great to have you on. And everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's show. We will see
Thank you,
y'all in
Stephen.
the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.